What's going on, everyone? Hope you're doing well. Thursday. Things are going to change, right? And Flowers for Algernon, just like yesterday, a couple big things kind of hinted at. One thing's going to happen today or start developing today that might take you by surprise. You're like, wait, what? How could that happen? A little cringy, I'll be honest. A little cringy. But before we get to that, over the next couple days, I would also like to continue reading Flowers for Algernon, but also talk about this Neuralink that Elon Musk is developing. We chatted about it in every class. And shout out to Landon, who mentioned there actually has been some trials on pigs. It's like, wait, what? So did a little bit of research. I would love to show you also an interview Elon Musk did about 2 years ago about Neuralink. He goes really in depth on some of the things that could change about humans. Crazy. And talking about how we are kind of almost cyborgs because I got it on me now, because we're always like not that far away from our phone. So it's a very interesting. He swears though. Not Elon Musk. Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has what my mom used to say, a bit of a potty mouth. So I think it's only once. It's kind of towards the end. He does drop the F-bomb. Hope you're all okay with that. But it's a 20-minute interview, and maybe we'll split it up over 2 days, or maybe watch it Friday or whatever. But I found it fascinating, and a lot has changed since then. Speaking of which, take a look at this. Here are just some, and yesterday, I had no idea. Yesterday was kind of a big day for Neuralink. There were some announcements made. So take a look at some of these things here. This is just the top stories. The first thing you see, like, okay, there is a pig there. Crazy. And then this is the headline that kind of grabbed me the most right there. 6 hours ago. So there was a release yesterday, like a press conference, and Elon Musk claims Neuralink is about 6 months away from first human trial. Yeah, I don't want to say too much about that interview, but it's kind of crazy, even though it's from 2 years ago. I'll try to dig up some more current information, but yeah, I'm not going to spoil it. We'll just let it unfold and hopefully pause it quite a few times because people will have thoughts. Very intelligent people on this team. I like the way you think. I learn a lot. Like yesterday, I probably learned more from you than you learned. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully you learned a lot from me. That's the goal in every class. But yeah, the Neuralink, like, whoa, I'm way behind on this stuff. I thought it was somewhere in the next decade, the next 20 years. Like, no, this thing is happening quickly. And that's the thing about technology, that it is constantly changing, but as it changes, it's also changing more quickly. Every year, like leaps and bounds, like there's a bigger gap from where it started. So crazy stuff, a little scary. So we're going to have to talk more about that. Now, let's get into Flowers for Algernon. Maybe not as much reading as yesterday. That was like, 16 minutes or so. So it won't be as long. We won't have to read as long to find out, like, whoa, cringe. Okay, let's get into it. And it's a lot easier now for me to, StreamYard, the people that I use. It's a lot easier to share things now. So let's go with this here. This is where we stopped. Rorschach test. He spelled it wrong a couple times at the beginning. I think somebody in every class knew Rorschach ink blots. Okay. So let's get into it right now. Boom. April 22nd. I found out what a Rorschach is. It's the test I took before the operation. The one with the ink blots on the piece of cardboard. The man who gave me the test was the same one. I was scared to death of those ink blots. I knew what he was going to ask me to find the pictures, and I knew I wouldn't be able to. I was thinking to myself, if only there was a way of knowing what kind of pictures were hidden. Maybe there weren't any pictures at all. Maybe it was just a trick to see if I was dumb enough to look for something that wasn't there. Just thinking about that made me sore at him. All right, we could pause here for a second. There is a question here. Jeez, you can't highlight exactly what you want. I want to highlight this thing, right? Yeah, okay. That. What is the author showing about Charlie's state of mind by writing the paragraph in this way? All right, I have come up with one adjective that I think nails it. I don't have any candy still, but I'm wondering, is there an adjective you could use to describe Charlie right there? I was scared to death. Just thinking about that made me sore at him. I'll pause. I'm thinking paranoid. Like, Charlie used to be so innocent, and now I think the adjective, just my opinion, maybe somebody came up with something better, but paranoid. He feels like people are out to get him now. All right, we might see more of that as we read today. All right, let's get rid of the blue. All right, Charlie, he said, you've seen these cars before, remember? Of course I remember. The way I said it, he knew I was angry, and he looked surprised. Yes, of course. Now, I want you to look at this one. What might this be? What do you see on this card? People see all sorts of things in these ink blots. Tell me what it might be for you, what it makes you think of. I was shocked. That wasn't what I expected him to say at all. You mean there are no pictures hidden in those ink blots? He frowned and took off his glasses. What? Pictures hidden in the ink blots. Last time you told me that everyone could see them, and you wanted me to find them too. He explained to me that the last time he had used almost the same exact words he's using now. I didn't believe it, and I still have the suspicion that he misled me at the time, just for the fun of it. Unless, I don't know anymore. Could I have been that feeble-minded? So now, Charlie, first time I think we've ever seen Charlie get angry, and now he's kind of doubting himself. So keep that in mind. There might be some unintended consequences with this operation. Yes, Charlie is getting smarter, and I think it was mentioned in a couple other classes that maybe he is so self-aware that he's going to be mad at himself for being so, quotes, so dumb at one time. Charlie may be becoming a little bit more bitter. All right. And it kind of goes along with that theme, like you really shouldn't mess with nature. We went through the cards slowly. One of them looked like a pair of bats tugging at something. Another one looked like two men fencing with swords. I imagined all sorts of things. I guess I got carried away, but I didn't trust him anymore. And I kept turning them around and even looking on the back to see if there was anything there I was supposed to catch. While he was making his notes, I peeked out the corner of my eye to read it, but it was all in code that looked like this. I'm not going to read it. I have no idea what that means. The test still doesn't make sense to me. It seems to me that anyone can make up lies about things that they didn't really see. How could he know I wasn't making a fool of him by mentioning things that I didn't really imagine? Maybe I'll understand it when Dr. Strauss lets me read up on psychology. April 25th. Figured out a new way to line up the machines in the factory, and Mr. Donegan says it will save him $10,000 a year in labor and increase production. He gave me a $25 bonus. I wanted to take Joe Karp and Frank Riley out to lunch to celebrate, but Joe said he had some things for his wife, to buy some things for his wife, and Frank said that he was meeting his cousin for lunch. I guess it'll take a little time for them to get used to the changes in me. Everybody seems frightened of me. When I went over to Amos Borg and tapped him on the shoulder, he jumped up in the air. People don't talk to me much anymore, or kid around the way they used to. Kind of makes the job kind of lonely. All right, we could pause there if anybody has any thoughts on that. And if not, we can just keep moving on, but maybe I don't know. Definitely Charlie is changing. And this is one of these things when we talk about unreliable narrator. So Charlie, of course, is our narrator. We are reading his diary. It's all in first person. He only lets us see what he wants us to see, right? He may be leaving out some details, but this is the second time that people have been afraid of him. Yesterday was the first time. Did anybody pick up on that? I can pause. Sorry, no candy. But the landlord, according to Charlie, it looked like she was scared of him. So, like, is he having outbursts? Like, what's going on? What's making people so scared of him now? Or is that just Charlie being paranoid? Maybe they aren't scared of him. Maybe that guy just didn't know anybody was there and that's why he jumped. But now Charlie is becoming so self-aware, like he's kind of doubting the reactions of the people around him. Paranoid, I would say. All right, the last thing here, I think we will get to it because this is going on a little long. It's about 10 minutes. Yeah, right here. April 27th. I don't know. Hey, you know what? I'm an old man. I'm 47. I'm not like you young guys. Maybe this is okay. But as an older guy, maybe I'm a little more traditional. I'm like, I don't know about this. Something a little funny. I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. Maybe. April 27th. I got up the nerve today to ask Miss Kinnian to have dinner with me tomorrow night to celebrate my bonus. At first, she wasn't sure it was right, but I asked Dr. Strauss, and he said it was okay. Dr. Strauss and Dr. Namor don't seem to be getting along so well. They're arguing all the time. This evening, when I came to ask Dr. Strauss about having dinner with Miss Kinnian, I heard them shouting. Dr. Namor was saying that it was his experiment and his research. Dr. Strauss was shouting back that he contributed just as much because he found me through Miss Kinnian and he performed the operation. Dr. Strauss said that someday thousands of neurosurgeons, I'm sure, we don't have to look at that now, right? We know what neurosurgeon is. We know what neuro means, brain, might be using his technique all over the world. Dr. Namor wanted to publish the results of the experiment at the end of this month. Dr. Strauss wanted to wait a while longer to be sure. Maybe a little foreshadowing there, right? This thing hasn't totally played out yet all the way. Dr. Strauss said that Dr. Namor was more interested in the chair of psychology at Princeton. We don't have to look at that, but the chair there, as it's being used, is like the head of a department. Some colleges, most colleges have like a chair for the department. Probably a lot of prestige there. Princeton, very good university, probably pays pretty well. That he was in the experiment. Dr. Namor said that Dr. Strauss was nothing but an opportunist who was trying to ride to glory on his coattails. When I left afterwards, I found myself trembling. I don't know why for sure, but it was as if I'd seen both men clearly for the first time. I remember hearing Bert say that Dr. Namor had a shrew of a wife who was pushing him all the time to get things published so that he could become famous. That's a term from Shakespeare, actually, but it's definitely a term that's kind of derogatory, definitely a term that should be left in the 60s. But a shrew, we would say, like, kind of controls the relationship, wears the pants in the relationship. I mean, maybe kind of an equal partner. But if you remember, there's a play by Shakespeare called Taming of the Shrew. Very sexist. Very sexist. Be careful. When you read Shakespeare, there's a lot of anti-Semitism in The Merchant of Venice. And there's a lot of sex, like pretty much throughout, right? And then there's some racism too, if you ever read Othello. So that's the way it was back then, right? Hopefully we're more aware of that. But a shrew, today I wouldn't use the term, but it's just like a woman who doesn't back down, I guess, right? So in the 60s, maybe a woman was supposed to be in the kitchen, having babies, cooking, cleaning, that kind of stuff. Hopefully we've evolved quite a bit since then. Women should be equal partners in the relationship. In fact, I think my wife, she might wear the pants. I don't know. I certainly say yes, dear, quite often. Just keeps everybody happy. All right, we're almost done here. So obviously Charlie is like seeing these guys for who they possibly could be. I mean, they have desires. They want fame too. Bert said, we ended right here. Bert said the dream of her life was to have a big shot husband. Was Dr. Strauss really trying to ride on his coattails? All right. We're not going to read 28 right now, but this kind of gives us a hint to where this thing is going. I don't understand why I never noticed how beautiful Miss Kinnian really is. Uh-oh. She's only 34. Now, we haven't have we found out how old Charlie is? I think we did at the beginning. I think he's quite a bit old. He is. Does anybody remember? It took me a second to remember. He's 37. I think I remember reading that because he's 10 years younger than me. So a man dating a woman, 37, 34, that age difference isn't that bad. But she was his teacher. I don't know. Maybe it's not a date. Maybe they're just going to have dinner. Two people can have dinner. It doesn't have to be romantic, but I don't know. Stay tuned. And then now we'll talk a little bit about that Neuralink. Crazy. 2 years ago, the interview. Then there'll be some time in class to finish up everything that's due tomorrow. Then a little Frankenbeans. You know how it goes. We've been doing this long enough.